You can also, if you type into your search bar, internet search bar, we're going to use a tool called Mentimeter today. So if you go to menti.com and type in this 8-digit code 98961890. I don't know, Rachel, if you could maybe like type that into the chat somehow, if you're able to do that. And we're going to create a word cloud here. Ty and I were having fun with word clouds yesterday, and so we're gonna play around with a couple here this afternoon. But if you've seen word clouds before, you kind of know how this works. The larger the word is that's showing up, that's where kind of the most people, I guess in our case, are responding from. And so it looks like we've got a lot of folks kind of locally here in Boulder and in Colorado, but we've got some folks in New Haven. Connecticut is showing up. Cool. Germany, welcome.
St. Louis. My oldest daughter was born in St. Louis. I lived there for 2 years. Santa Fe. I have a massive town crush on Santa Fe. It's like the most magical place in the world.
Oh, I love this. And if you're just joining us, please go ahead, use this QR code on the bottom left-hand corner, or you can join us at menti.com and use that 8-digit code. I'm going to leave this up for another minute or so, and then I've got one more question that I want to ask folks, but we've got a really cool geographic reach here.
Panama, Irvine, St. Paul, Stockholm, Salt Lake, South Dakota. This is amazing. Love it. All these places
Vermont,
are so cool.
Madison. My family's in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. I'm guessing that's probably Brian joining us from Madison. Welcome, Brian. All right. St. Paul, Pine Ridge, Res, welcome. Iowa. I grew up in Iowa. I'm a Hawkeye. Go Hawks. Welcome. Welcome from Iowa.
Just want to make sure everybody feels comfortable that they're in the right place. We are actually combining a couple different trainings from a couple different events. So you might be here because you're coming to the Innovation Summit. You might be here because you're part of a working group. You might be here because of the Higher Sense conference. You might be here for some other training, and everybody is welcome. We're just trying to combine all of those because we cover the same material. So don't feel like you're in the wrong place. We're generally going to talk about the Innovation Summit a lot as it's themed around that. But if you're here for a working group or one of the other things, you're here, you're in the right place.
Awesome. Thank you, Ty. I've got one more slide here, Ty, that I want to gather some information from folks, and then we're going to kick things off. Is that cool?
Sounds great.
What are you excited about learning today? So what are you here to learn about? What brings you here? Ty just mentioned that you may be here in different capacities. What are you excited to learn about here this afternoon? This is great. We've got some folks that are here to do cloud computing, Cyverse, new tools, the basics. What do I need for ESIIL? Oh, I didn't know you could do an emoji in there. That's cool. I'm a newbie. Welcome. All are welcome. This is super helpful for us to get a sense of what folks are excited to learn about here. There's another emoji. How do we do that? GitHub. Awesome. I think I lied. I think I have one more of these. We'd also like to get a sense of kind of what folks' backgrounds are. And so could you tell us maybe how often are you using open data science tools? And by that, I mean things like GitHub or R or Python or maybe Jupyter Notebooks or things like QGIS. There's probably a lot of other things that I didn't put on that list. how often are you doing this? Never ever? Maybe once or twice you've done this, or sometimes, or maybe you're doing it often. And that's kind of how I define those things. Looks like we're pretty well distributed, but lots of folks that are using these tools on a pretty regular basis, Ty. So that's good to know for sure. And if you've never used these tools, that's great. This is going to be a good introduction, I think, for you. Okay, Ty, I'm about to hand it off to you. I just want to give folks a little bit of background about what ESIIL is all about. And so you heard Ty mention that you may be here for one of many different activities. I'll say it's a super busy day here at ESIIL today. We've got lots of things going on, multiple different trainings. We're doing our best to be like at multiple places at the same time. ESIIL, our Environmental Data Science Innovation and Inclusion Lab, is a new NSF funded program. We are the newest NSF Data Synthesis Center. We really are trying to reach a global community of environmental data scientists. I think you saw that on that first slide. We've got folks from all over the country and really all over the world joining us today. At our core, we are trying to do transformative science across Earth scales, offering open and accessible cyber infrastructure, building an inclusive community for environmental data science, and educating a diverse environmental data science core. We do that kind of through a number of different pathways. You heard Ty mention working groups. We also have a data short course and a learning portal that we'll share with you. We sponsor things like hackathons, internships. We've got a great new cohort of postdocs and we're recruiting for the next cohort now. And then we've also got our upcoming Innovation Summit. And so all these different areas are ways that folks are engaging with ESIIL. And what we're going to hope to do today is get you started in terms of your capability and capacity to innovate with us. And so Ty and Eric Verley are going to take it away here in just a second to talk about some different open data science tools and introduce you to them. I'll check back in 45 minutes or so to kind of see how folks are doing. I'll be here. Rachel will be here as well, checking on the chat and making sure that folks are doing okay. We'll have time for a little break, hopefully, at the top of the hour. And then when we come back, we'll have kind of the second half of the afternoon to talk about a couple other different tools. And so, Ty, I have taken up enough of your time. I am going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to hand the keys over to you. And yeah, take it away, my friend. You got this.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Nate, for introducing us. He runs the education program here at ESIIL, and he does a very, very good job of it. So thank you so much for your help. Today, everybody, we are going to go over the three main pillars of our CI system. We call today Login Day. The reason we do that is because we're just going to make sure everybody's logged in to the three big places that we need you to get into. The next training next week, we'll play around a little bit, do some stuff in those environments. So today, it's like, let's make sure conceptually you have a pretty good idea what's going on. And let's make sure you can get logged into the thing so that doesn't slow us down later, okay? So good to see some returning faces. It's like some familiar faces, some people who have been in hackathons before, who have been to the summit maybe last year. It looks like we just have some people who maybe already know a lot of this stuff. So for those of you, please sit tight and just make sure you're caught up and you can get in. But a lot of this will feel like repeating stuff that we've gone through before. Also, for those of you that are here for working groups, your tech lead for your working group has already been through an 8-hour training with us on how to get all of this going. And they've sort of been working to stay ahead of everything for your particular working group. So if you're having troubles, I'd invite you, if your tech lead is here, which they probably are, go ahead and start talking with your tech lead because they probably know the immediate answer for you. Okay. Let me share my screen real quick and show you where we're going to start. So on the Innovation Summit website, over on the left, let me get you this link. And this is to remind you also that we have 2 people monitoring the chat. So if you have questions, a question about, are we saving this? We are recording this, and Rachel will put it up on the community recordings page, and you'll be able to see this over and over again. There are a lot of people that couldn't make it to the schedule, and we move pretty fast. So Feel free to lean hard on that recording. We'll try to keep it as clear and concise as we possibly can. Okay, so I just put this link in here, but it's going to take you to, this is the innovation website. So the home, you may have already seen, this has a lot of the scheduling and stuff for the innovation summit that's coming up. And then over here on the left side, there's pre-innovation virtual trainings. And there are 4 pages for today. The first 2 are this first little section before we break out. Then we'll do the third one, and then we'll have another little break, and then we'll do the 4th one. Okay, so we're going to go over these first 2. Here is the page we're going to start, and I'll give you this link right at the top. There's a link to a HackMD page. This is not something that I'll put this link in also. This is mainly a separate tool for us to play around with Markdown. So our first thing that we want to learn is this language. It's called a markup language, and the name of the markup language is Markdown, but it's generally designed to add context and add text to code that you might publish. And we're going to have a whole website set up, and the way we interface with that website is through Markdown. So I see 30 people have joined now. And what I want you to do, what you're seeing here is a split screen of what Markdown raw looks like on the left and what it looks like rendered. And this is going to change things in real time. So in the participation list, go ahead and find a little blank spot down here and go put your name, your title, where you work, and sort of what your expertise is. But mainly right here, what we're doing is practicing the syntax of Markdown. This is sort of the basic way that we're going to take notes, the basic way that we're going to communicate with the rest of our team. Now notice that mine is in bold, and that's because I have 2 stars on either side. For those of you that want to sort of know some fancy formatting, that's our next activity. So write your name and then start exploring this by yourself. Scrolling down, you're just going to see side by side, okay, we have a list. How would I format a list? How do I format bold? As I scroll down, it also gives you some other cool things that you can do. How do I specify different levels of headings or different levels in the list? How do I bold things? So here I see bolded text, and on the left, I see how to make things bold. If you wanted to make tables with different header structures, if you want to make a Sudoku table, these are all just meant to be examples so you see what sort of code on the left it takes to build some type of rendered thing on the right. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing, and I want everybody to just take 5 minutes and play with this. Just go and play with formatting. Make sure your name's in there, and then play with the formatting of your name. What if you wanted to make part of that italic? What if you wanted to add a citation? All the way at the bottom, it shows you citation. So I'm going to pause and mute and be quiet for 3 minutes while you guys play around. It's fun. I see formatting popping in and out all over the places. That's looking great. You see Nate getting fancy, adding a link in his bio. I like it. One more minute of playing around, and then we'll bring you back together.
I was going to give a shout out to Brian Yandel too for putting a link to his GitHub portfolio page in there. Looking good, Brian.
And Sparkle Malone just popped up the Malone Lab. Gorgeous. Love it. Okay, I'm going to start talking again, but everybody feel free to keep playing around in there while that's happening. Okay. All right, so let's move on real quick. So that going to that HackMD, that was just for the people who have never done Markdown before and need to try out the general syntax. You guys can go back to that and play around with it. And thank you everybody for joining. Now let's talk about where we're going to use that. Okay, so first here are our websites again. This Markdown one is just a summary of what you already saw. So it has at the top, it has a link to that HackMD page, and then it has just some examples of the different syntax. Now, when you look at this, it's in Markdown format. It's not in that split format that we saw, but we are in GitHub. So if we want to edit this, we would go to this edit button and it's going to pull it up in raw Markdown. And then we would add any edits that we want in Markdown format and commit those changes up here, and it'll make the whole thing change for us. Okay, now for the summit and for the working groups, the individual summit groups and the working groups are all going to have their own page that looks like this. And this is going to be the central page for collaboration amongst your team. So there will be useful, these aren't in here yet, but there will be pages just for taking notes for different meetings. There are pages for reporting back. So this web page at the end of day one, when it's like, okay, all groups, let's report back to the group what you did. What we're going to do is pull up your web page, your home page, this one, and you're just going to scroll through like it was a presentation and present to everybody. This way people can go and follow along on your website. You can share it with other people. And there's just sort of a persistent catalog of what you did in your group instead of it being lost in a bunch of temporary files. This website is housed on GitHub. So I'm going to go over to the GitHub repo that this is sitting in, and right over here on the right side is the link to that website. So these are the same. They're one in the same. Everything for the website is stored in the repo, along with all of your code and everything else. So not everybody knows what GitHub is, so we're just going to start right at the beginning and make sure everybody's caught up. If you go here, there is, right below Markdown, there is a GitHub tab. And this has a lot of the material that you will need that I'm going to talk about if you want to come back and review this again later. Now, first, what the heck is GitHub to start with? First, you're going to see this. Excuse me. Sorry, I have a stuffed up nose. This is sort of the overall GitHub universe. This is how we interact with GitHub, and this is how it's useful. Now, I want to start by saying we're going to cover three things that sort of make up our universe here at ESIIL. One of them is GitHub and this GitHub repo, and we're going to set up some templates for you to use that we call our Oasis templates. But that is where we live most of our life. Okay? All our code is going to go there. Our communication with the rest of our team is going to go there. Our report backs at the end of the day are going to go there. We have group activities from the facilitators of the summit that are like worksheets that we're going to work through. They're all on here and in Markdown. So when in doubt, you're going to go to a GitHub repo. And if you're in a working group, that'll be the working group repo. If you are in a summit working group, we'll talk about those next week. We'll have a bunch of them designated per question, and you can jump around to different repos if you jump around to different questions with people. The second pillar of this is what we're going to call persistent storage. So this is how do we store data that's too big for GitHub, but that we need to keep for a long time and that we need to move in and out of the system. And then the third one are these Cyverse computer instances, which are really ephemeral. So we're going to pull one of those together, do a bunch of computation, and then dissolve the thing away. When it dissolves away, we lose everything that was in there. And so that's why we need these other two mechanisms for saving. So GitHub, we're going to start there first, because this is really how we hit the save button. Anything that you do in the cloud is going to need to go back to GitHub to be saved, unless it's really big data, and then it'll go to our other persistent storage that I'll talk about at the end. Now, this is okay. So now imagine yourself firing up a ephemeral computer instance, and it has nothing in it. You need to first bring in all of your code. So we're going to hook up our ephemeral instance to GitHub. We're going to go pull. And so here you see on the right side, here we have in the cloud, the repo that's storing everything. When we pull, we're going to take everything from that repo and bring it down into our working directory. You guys are going to see this the first thing when we open Cyverse. This is the first thing that we'll do. We'll hook up GitHub and pull in the repo, and then you have all your code. You have like your working directory in there, and you can do stuff with it. Now you're going to open files and modify them and write some code and have some PNGs printed out and do all the things that you would normally do in your coding environment. And it's time to save those. Okay, so everything that you've been doing is in what we call the staging area or your working directory. It's just happening like it was happening on your computer, but nobody's keeping track of it. Now what we needed to do is commit. So there's going to be an option to commit that information. You're going to put in a little comment, and you're going to hit the commit button, and it's going to move it to a local repository. This means that it hasn't gone back up to GitHub yet. It's still in your little ephemeral machine, but it's now formatted so GitHub knows what's going on. It's counted up how many changes there have been. It's organized everything according to GitHub rules. And then we're going to push, and that goes back up to the repo. So again, we have all of our information on the cloud. When we start up a new computer, first we're going to pull. We're going to do all our work like we would normally do. Every time we're ready to save, we're going to commit that, and then we're going to push back up. One complication and one term that comes up that you're going to hear a lot is a thing called a pull request. If you don't have the proper permissions for a repo, you'll try to push, and it'll say, you need to fill out a pull request. Well, that's just saying, okay, I'm going to file a piece of paperwork saying, hey, remote repo, will you pull this data that I'm trying to push to? And it's just saying, oh, I need them to let the drawbridge down right here so that I'm allowed in. Maybe you need to go change your permissions. Maybe you're in a working group and your tech lead has set up a pull request system so that nobody overwrites other people's code. And so you want to check, sometimes the pull request is not wanted and sometimes it is wanted, but essentially it's just one level of extra defense here so that code that's getting pushed in can stay organized and not destroy the organization of the repo up here. All right, so those are that's sort of the key framework that we're working with here. Now, if I look over here in ESIIL, we have a lot of repos. So each one of these is a siloed little section of code that operates on its own, and they don't interact with each other than we can have communal ownership of a lot of them, or I can, Eric and I could administer these all under the ESIIL umbrella, but each one of these repos is its own thing. Now we've made a repo for the Innovation Summit. And inside of that repo, we have all the information we need to make this website. So everything that's for the website is inside of the docs container. So you can have stuff like this code right here would be just general code for your group. Like your group's developing code and they're working on stuff, but it's not ready for the website yet. We're going to maybe work in there. But then when something's ready to go on the website, we're going to come in here and you're going to notice that everything, I have folders with different stuff in it. So in the worksheet, there are PNGs, which are outputs of the code that's in here. But let me find the actual markdown document somewhere here. So down here at the bottom, there is always a markdown worksheet. So this is now, you're seeing the rendering in the markdown, but if I go to edit this file, you're going to see all the raw markdown, just where I put in the links, put in the highlights. This is all, the web page is just a markdown. So when you're ready to modify or edit your website, you're going to go into, maybe you want it in the resources folder, or maybe you see here, there are a bunch of markdown things here. You can store that really wherever you want, but you're going to make a markdown file and store it. Now, the other big thing you want to know about the website is there's one document. It's called mkdocs.yaml right on the front. And that mkdocs.yaml file controls everything about your website. So this will all be figured, you'll see this next week. We'll have a bunch of websites set up for all the different groups and you'll be able to play with it a little bit more. Right now, it's just getting the concept. So it's the information on like, what's the name of the website and what's the URL, how to find it, which repository is it attached to. And then here's the part that you might want to modify. This is just how is the navigation set up for the website. So if you remember that when we were looking at the sidebar over here, well, I can show you on the sidebar over here, we have pre-summit training, and then that's bolded. It says pre-summit training, and then all of these are subheadings under that. That's all controlled from here. So in the nav tree, we have pre-summit trainings are at the same level as home, and then all those pages that were under it are just indented underneath there. So if you want to add a new page, you're just going to come in here, hit the edit button, and come down here and say, new page, colon, and then the link to whatever the markdown is. Markdown. Okay. Now, that new.markdown doesn't exist, so I'm going to delete this real quick. I'm going to cancel that because I don't want to just break the website. But that's exactly how you would just add a markdown and add the thing directly from the website. Anything you want to edit, there's an edit button on the website part. You don't have to go over the repo. So I'm like, oh man, I want to edit this page. I hit edit, and it takes me to the repo version of the markdown. Just edit, 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 and commit changes, and it takes a second to update the website. Let me show you one last thing here. These actions are showing you the build. This, every single time you commit a new change to your repo, it's going to go rebuild the website. So here you see it's like I made an edit and then it rebuilt the website. I made an edit, then it rebuilt the website. You're just going to see those alternate back and forth all the way through time as you make a build and then you make an edit. If this doesn't work, this is going to be red. So if you submit something that has the wrong syntax, and it breaks your website, you're going to go to look and click on this, and it's going to go and show you where the code broke. And it's usually that you just didn't indent something enough, or you indented something too much in that mkdocs folder. Okay, so let's just bring me back to what the whole point of this thing is. The whole point here is that GitHub is our main place, our main community, main place for collaborating with our community, with our group. Okay? If you need to make a note to your group, you're going to go here. You need to report back to people, you're going to go here. You're going to store your code, you're going to go here. It just will max out after a little bit. All right, to make sure that everybody is has an ESIIL account and is ready to go, you get a chance to play along. Okay, so we're going to go to the ESIIL repo. I'll put this link in, and we're going to go down to the thing called the postdoc oasis. Let me put this link in now. Okay, so the postdoc Oasis is a template. So over here on the right side, you say use this template, create a new repository. And we are going to create this with you as the owner. Okay, so here you could go down and there are a couple different, you might have other access. Some of you might have ESIIL access, might have other, but I want you to give yourself, it's going to put you on your own. And you can call the repo whatever you want. It can be training repo, or you could start, if you want to make your own website for yourself, it could be your own personal repo or something. I'm going to go personal. I'm calling my personal website 2024. I'm going to make it public. And then I'm going to hit create repo or create repository. You're going to see it go and generate a new repository. And this is just for practicing. If you, at the end of this, want to just go delete this repo, you can, or if you want to develop it out, you can do that. But it should be on yours. Now, some of you might be hitting errors now. If you are finding that you don't have a GitHub account and it's not working, then go ahead and message us in the chat and we'll try to help you get set up for there. Some of you might need to pause and go get a GitHub account really quick right now. Can I get a check-in on the chat on how people are going? You can just give a thumbs up. Right, Brian was asking again.
Yeah, how did you get to the point of creating this personal website? I must have passed out for a moment.
No worries. So when you first, it's built into the template that you just templated, but we need to do a couple things to turn it on that we're going to do right now. So here, just to remind people, we're at the postdoc Oasis. We used this template to create a new repository, and then we put it with yourself as the owner and have it public. And it should pop up like this. Now, when this pops up, I'm seeing lots of thumbs up, which is really good. How do we yeah, so a lot of people are not seeing, so on this new one, the templated one, you don't see the thing yet. And let's talk about why that is. First, we have to go to this major document that controls everything. You're going to notice that you are trying to use the same URL as the postdoc Oasis instead of the new repo that you made. So essentially, you just want to take this value up here and replace postdoc Oasis. Oh, got to go to the edit. And now just replace postdoc Oasis with the name of this repo. This can be the name of. Right. Okay, so I'm just making that big so people can see. I changed the site name. I changed the site description. I left the author name because that's still me, but you would change the author name yourself. I changed just this end part to the name of the repo. I changed this end part to the name of the repo. Oh, sorry. This one, it's the personal one, not the ESIIL one. So you want to copy the URL there, I think, and put it in here. There you go. Sorry, I led you astray because I had the ESIIL one. So we HTTPS github.com/ the name of the profile. So instead of ESIIL, it'll be your username and then the name of the repo there. Okay, I'm going to commit those changes. And you're almost there. We have to go back to the main repo now. And we have to go change a setting. So settings up here. Brian, I saw your hand. Was that a question or a celebration?
I don't know how you got to the personal website. I missed that part and everything flows from there. Am I supposed to like fork the Oasis thing or?
Yep, exactly. So when you make the template there, that'll make it into the new repo. And then we have to go turn on the website from the new repo.
Okay, so I first fork the Oasis.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I saw a couple questions in the chat too, Ty, about this template business. And folks are wondering, are they supposed to click on use this template?
Okay, now that you have seen the action once, let me just do it all again and get everybody to follow along. So first, the link is in the chat for the postdoc Oasis, and that gets you right where I'm at. Once you're there, then up at the right-hand side up here, there's a thing called use this template. And click that and come down and say create a new repository. And that takes you to this page. Once you're on this page, you just fill in a repository name and hit create repository. And it should pop you into the new repository you just made. Okay, so I'm going to pause and let everybody do that and watch the chat. Try to check in.
Can you show the changes that you made again?
For sure. I just want to make sure everybody was up to date on this one, and then let me go through those changes. Let me give everybody 1 more minute to make sure their repo set up, and then I'll go over the website changes again. Brian, did that get us caught up? Or yeah, cool. All right. Anybody else need us to? Okay, so the question was to do this in future, do we need to be associated to ESIIL? You do not if you're moving it to your own profile, your own user profile in GitHub, which is what we just did. So right now it's just a public template. You can just grab it and take it for yourself anytime you want. For the working groups, we had them set up these repos in the ESIIL user profile. And so for that case, all of the tech leads needed permission in the ESIIL repo to be able to do that, to create a repo in the ESIIL profile. And they then now have the ability to give the rest of their working group permission to do that same thing, to modify all the working group ones. For the Innovation Summit, we don't need quite that much control. So I'll just create a bunch of pre-made websites on the ESIIL repo, and each group will just go modify those as the group discusses. So I don't think you necessarily need to know how to go create this thing from scratch, but having some familiarity with that mkdocs YAML, so you could go change which pages are where and how they're labeled, and knowing where the general edit function is to go add some markdown. Those are the 2 things that we really want you to know. And then just sort of understand why we would be caring so much about GitHub and why we're emphasizing it so much. Okay. I am going to share screen again and re-go over that second part of the edit. So now I'm assuming that you are in the repo that you created with whatever name you gave it. Mine is personal website 2024. In there on the very front page, not in the docs. I told you everything for the website is inside of that docs, except for the control which is at the same level as the docs. So we're going to go into here, and you mainly want to change the site URL and the repo URL, because the reason your website's not showing up right now is because you're competing with the postdoc Oasis that came in the template. That website already exists, and so it won't let you make another website with that same name. So you just need to change this. Now, what do we change it to? Well, we're going to draw from the repo name. So my repo name is personal website 2024. So I'm going to have the GitHub IO address just be personal website 2024, the same as our repo. And then here, I just got the repo address from the URL line up here. So if I am back, yeah, I just copied and pasted it from up here and put it down. The address right here.
That's really quick, Ty.
Yeah, go ahead.
It doesn't like your apostrophe on the site name. That's why the action failed. The single quotes and then.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so first, how did he know my action failed? Well, there's an X right here. And if I were to go to my actions up here, it would tell me that it's not liking them. Didn't like those. So I go back here and I say, what did it not like? And the answer is it does not like apostrophes. So now, so all of you should be trying this on your own. Try change the repo URL, try changing the site URL, and try committing. And then when you go to the actions, it should show what it's doing. Right now, mine is up, just taking in the MK doc updates, and then you're gonna see it try to build the page, assuming that these worked.
In the meantime, can we check one setting on your repo, Ty, so everyone can see? Your actions might not have permissions to write a new branch. So just while it's building, if everyone wants to check, Ty, if you go to your settings tab for your repo there, and then if you go to actions and then general, the fourth section there under if you scroll all the way down, workflow permissions right there. So if you made it under your, if the owner of your fork is your personal GitHub page, you're going to need to make sure that that says read and write permissions instead of just read repository contents. So that initial build may fail, but you just need to make sure you set this to read and write.
Can you show them how you did that one more time, Ty?
Yep. Okay, so in back in the repo that we just made, we're gonna have to change two settings after you've edited that thing. First, so here's the settings up here at the right, the top bar, settings. Over here, left bar, actions. Under actions, there's general. See over there, actions, general. And then I scroll all the way to the very bottom one, and mine was on this, and I had to change it to this. So it was on this, I had to change it to this. Should say read and write permissions and then save. And then the other one is we're going to go over to pages. So actions was here and a couple down is pages. You go to pages and under branch, it hasn't, yeah, that's not ready yet. We're gonna have to do this one in a second, but I think the actions aren't ready yet for it. Okay, mine's running. Just gonna pause for a second and catch up with everybody. Make sure there's no, see what's happening in the comments.
I thought Celia had a really good question about written instructions. And yes, Ming has been typing out the steps as you've been doing them, but is there like a static page that we have?
For
with
this
the
little,
steps?
we haven't built one quite yet for this little step, but there is for the next step. So stick with us on this one. We'll have it written up really soon, but the next step is all written up nicely. Yeah, Dana was asking what we're supposed to do on pages. I was saying it needs to run real quick. The option wasn't popping up quite yet. Okay, so mine went green on actions. So now we should be able to go back to settings, back to pages. And now it says GH pages. And we want to click that. And save. Now, what is happening here is we're making a little, it's a branch called GitHub Pages. Every time you push to your main branch on GitHub, it's forking that and making the website from a branch. It's branching and making a website from the branch so that all the background code is not interfering with your main branch. Excuse me. Okay. If I go back here, there's just one last step so I see the website over here on the right. I'm gonna click this guy. There's a little radio button that says use your GitHub Pages website. It popped up the URL from my website and I say save changes. And now, wham, bam, I have my personal site. Okay, I might have to do that a couple more times. Yeah, I'm going to talk it through it one more time. And then by next week, I'll make a static document that people can follow along with if they're struggling with this.
You know, it's really interesting. I'm actually working on something related right now.
Yeah, right.
Make the docs site integrated in a GitHub repository, but I'm having a little hard time following you, what you are doing, because by the time I replicate it myself, it's gone and I miss the next step.
Not a problem. Well, so I'll put up some stuff over the week, but let me walk through it one more time right now.
Yeah, okay, maybe one more time, but if you could like slow down
Yep.
3 times, that would
Yep.
be fantastic.
Yeah, happy to do it. Happy to do it. Okay. Do you want me to start from making the repo or just after the repo is made?
Well, I don't know how others, maybe they could speak up, but
Yeah.
I have the repo already. I am just trying to make the action work.
Yeah, sounds great.
I don't know
Okay.
what I am supposed to see.
All right, here, how about I'll do this? I'm going to work from the point of the repo being made. If you are still struggling to get to that point, send a message to Eric real quick and we can send you to a little breakout group and get you caught up that way.
No, I have the repo all right.
Okay, let me start there. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say the reason I fell behind you too. The reason is after I went to the settings and then I changed the under the general rules for the branches. That first thing you did is under actions, isn't it? Under general actions, after that part where you put read and write, then I had to go back to the actions and then reboot those actions.
Oh, okay.
And then it went through, but it didn't do
Yes.
that till I did the read and write.
Yeah. Okay. Let me show everybody that. Thanks for pointing that out.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So back at the repository. So you've just forked a new repository. You don't see the link over here yet because there's a couple things that are broken. Very first thing we want to do is we're going to go through to the mkdocs YAML. This is the document that controls everything for the website. So click on that. And that is going to show you a couple URLs that are competing with other websites. So you need to first change your site URL just so this last part equals the repository name. And this one down here has the name of the user, because I'm in TTUF, and the personal website. So I just have both of those parts up here. So the first URL just gets the second part. The second URL gets both of those. Here we are. First one gets personal website. Second one gets that and that. Those are the only ones that you have to change. You could leave the name of it and stuff the same for now if you wanted to. How do we change those? Well, over here on the right, there is the little edit this file pencil. If you click on that, it takes you into editing mode and you can go and freely edit everything that you want. After you've edited it, you'll hit commit changes to commit those changes. Okay, so that's the first big step, is just making sure that you're not competing with another website. That's the main reason that yours is not working when you first started. Okay, now I'm going to go back in and we're going to do the two settings that we need to change. Okay, the first one is we're going to go to settings. We're going to go to actions over here on the left. Under actions, there is one called general. So now we're settings, general, settings, actions, general, and scroll all the way down. And you get this workflow permissions, and you're going to need to change it so it looks like mine and says read and write permissions. And hit save. Okay, now here was the tip that we just got, which was, okay, this errored out, and since you haven't made another commit, it hasn't tried to run again yet. So mine turned green because I did this step already, but this one probably is red for you. So we're going to click on that, and up here where it says rerun all jobs, hit that, and now we're back in business. In the future, it should just be every time you push a change to the repo, it automatically runs and redoes the website. Here, it just got caught up and we haven't pushed another change.
Could you backtrack a bit, please?
Yeah.
Like at all workflows, what then?
Yeah. So all workflows, and you should have, this one will not have appeared yet, probably. And you probably have one of these that looks broken like this.
Yeah.
So if you click on the broken one, click on that link, that'll take you to this. And then up at the right top, it says rerun jobs. So we try that. And then if you go back to actions, rerun all jobs. You go back to actions and you should see some stuff here with wheels turning as it's thinking. Did that happen?
Says in progress.
Perfect. That's exactly what it should look like. And now we just watch to see if it breaks. Okay, last step.
Where are the error messages?
Say that again, sorry?
Where would be the error messages?
It will pop up here. So if you refresh in the actions, it'll just hit the refresh button and it should turn to green, hopefully.
Well, okay, so I get a red button, but it doesn't say what exactly went wrong.
Okay. Let me have Eric, do you mind pulling him into a little breakout room and getting everything going for him?
Yeah, well, it looks like that action on your repo is still running. So just give it like another minute, and I think it'll succeed.
Okay, so success, nice.
Oh, there we go.
Okay,
Cool.
so then
All right, now you're on the home stretch. We have 2 more things to do, and you'll have a working website.
Okay.
Okay, so back to settings. Now that is run, back to settings. Go down to pages. So this, I think, is where a lot of people are catching up with us. So settings, pages, and right here under branch, you change it to GH pages and hit save. All right. Last step now is just make it so you can see that website. So back on your main repo page. So I hit this button up here. I'm back at the home page for the repo that you made. Right over here on the right side, there is this button. It's like this settings icon. Hit that settings icon. It should
I
pull
need
up
to
this
know how you
menu.
got to that page in the first place.
Oh yeah. Yep, no problem. Let me show you.
I mean, you're doing it daily, but
Yeah, no,
5 seconds is not enough to backtrack whichever
Yeah.
action you have done before.
Totally. I'm sorry to blast through everything. So at the top right, you should always, if you should have these two links. And if you click on this one, that takes you to the home page for your repo.
And I work with the GitHub daily.
There you go. Okay, so there we're back. Over here is a settings button at the far right. It says about. It's this one. Click this radio button that says your GitHub page, and the website should pop up there and save the changes. And now you have a link to your personal website. Boom, boom, boom.
Okay, now I lost you again. What am I supposed to put for the URL?
Yeah. So right here, when you hit this setting, that will open up here, and there's a little radio button here that says use your GitHub pages website.
Okay.
Just click that, and this should fill. And then you save changes. And then the website will pop up right there. The link.
So Ty,
Yeah.
guys, so I have my own personal website that I created before,
Yeah.
and now I just successfully did this. And
Yeah.
it looks like it's part of my own website, but it has a different URL. So
Yeah.
it's sitting within the github.io
Yeah.
with its own link to it. And so I can cross connect those things eventually if I want to.
Yeah. 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 You just give one site the link to the other site, and they're connected together.
Okay. I didn't realize you could have multiple origins for this code for.
Well,
websites.
yeah, if you have the exact same address, then probably one will overwrite the other. But yeah, exactly. If they're really close, one can just be a sub website to the other one. No problem. Okay, so we are about to take a break. What do I want you to take away? Why did we do this? What do you actually need to know? Okay, again, the website here is the main way for you to collaborate with your team. This is the way you're going to take notes. This is the way you send notes to your team, the way you keep track of code, work on code together, keep track of who made updates when, and GitHub lets us do all of that in the background really nicely. Okay, so that is our main goal here. The website was just to give you an activity to work through to sort of understand how the website and the repo play together. And you can keep going crazy on that as much as you want, but we made sure everybody had a GitHub account. We made sure that you understood the relationship between those two things. And we made sure that you understood that GitHub is sort of our main hub for going to our go-to place for dealing with most of our code. Does everyone feel clear about that? Does anyone have any conflicts or questions or concerns about just that part?
I was going to suggest that we make a breakout room for folks that need a little bit more assistance, and maybe we could put Eric in there with them when we take a quick break here. And then I would just echo one other thing that Ty had mentioned. Yeah, we're seeing a few comments about, we'd like some written docs for this. We are working on that, and we will have something to share with everybody just as soon as they're ready. So stay tuned for that. Also, the recording will be available, and you can go back and watch that for sure. So Ty, do we want to take a quick break? What are your thoughts
let's do 7 minutes. So a 7-minute bio break. Make sure people can do whatever they need to do. So let's come here at 8 after. Let's start again.
And I don't know, Ty, if you're a host or a co-host, I don't know if you can create a breakout room or not.
Yeah,
Is that
I'll go
something Rachel can do?
Yeah, I can
sorry.
do breakout rooms.
So Rachel's going to create a breakout room, and then folks can go in there. If we need to put you in there, we can. Just let us know. We'll pair you up with Eric, and he can do a little bit of troubleshooting. And then like Ty said, we're gonna come back in 7 minutes for the next session. I'm gonna put up a slide while folks are on break so that you can get us some feedback about how the pace of the first session went.
So the room's open. It's room 1 and Eric's in there. So feel free to, you should be able to join yourself. If you have trouble, let me know and I'll put you in there. I'm going to pause the recording. Will someone remind me to start it again? Thank you. Thank you. Recording again. And the breakout room is closing, so folks are making their way back here.
Okay, great. Everyone, we're just taking a deep breath while we wait for everybody to pop back in from the breakout room. In 15 seconds, it's going to kick them all out and they'll hop back over. Seeing a lot of people in the chat appreciating Ming. Ming is amazing. Thank you, Ming. Appreciate you.
Welcome to the club. Hi, did you mention that there were going to be like, I don't know if office hours are the right word or like help desk, but in these different avenues that folks are joining us, whether it's a working group or whether it's the summit, like there are going to be opportunities for folks to get technical help if things aren't all clicking here today, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, so for the Innovation Summit, well, we have another training next week with me. Pretty much we go over these same 3 points again, but we do little activities to try to make you more comfortable and make sure that everything's working. And then for your working groups, again, we have met with your tech leads already for 8 hours and try to give them a bunch of the background that you need. So I would go to them first and get the help from your tech lead. And then if that is not working, then come and get help from us. But we're here. We are definitely here. And then for the summit on day 0, which is the Monday before the summit, we're going to have an open office hours where people can just come in and sit down with us in person and fiddle around with things that they feel not comfortable with yet.
Yeah, can I make a suggestion? What I'm sometimes doing for my users and students is I make a walkthrough with screenshots where I put like big red ellipse of, oval over whatever needs to be changed, so that they can follow it step by step, just, doing exactly what that. And then I make screenshots and put them in a PowerPoint and then print that into PDF and I give it to them. Would you possibly do that for us, please?
Yes, we
I
can do that.
I did make it to the finish, but when I
Yes.
try to replicate it by myself, I'm pretty sure I will go wrong in some places, and then it will just keep digging deeper and deeper.
Yes, of course. We're happy to do that. And for the one we're going into right now, I just put that in the link. So we have the click by click for this next one.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's great.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we
Appreciate
just want to give you all the resources that you need to be able to do everything that you need to do, for sure.
Yeah, and it's so much nicer than like the docs.
I was going to mention one thing too. I'm going to give a plug. John, we do have a learning portal where once we have the step-by-step instructions up, like you're describing, that we will post those too. But I'll put a link in the chat to our learning portal so that
I'll
folks
save
can
the chat.
see
I will
kind of
need
how
to
we do
go
that.
shortly, unfortunately, but I'll save the check now.
Yeah, we really appreciate the feedback though. This is helpful.
Yeah, I mean, how did you guys know that I was actually working on something like this for the past 4 days?
Everybody's supposed to be working on this. This is what everybody does, right?
I did it for my own purposes.
Rob is making a note that this is still the easiest website he's ever put up, even though it's not effortless. Okay, so I've put a link that has the click by click of what I'm going to do, but then I'm going to walk through it instead of walking through the scroll. So you can have the scroll open on your second screen or cruise along. And so let me put my And this is another one that you're going to want to do along with us. Again, today's login day, so we want to make sure that everybody can just get into the system. And when you can't get in the system, throw your hand up and we'll get you into the system, but then we don't have to do that during the summit or during the working group. We've made that crying attempt now instead of that. Okay, so this is the page that you're looking at. It's going to scroll through and just show you all the things I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to go away from this page and I'm going to go to Cyverse. Okay, there are 2 Cyverse web pages. First, we're going to go to the main home web page. So for all of you, Cyverse is how we spell it, Cyverse, home. And that's going to take us to a website like this with a big University of Arizona red banner at the top. This is how we sign up for a Cyverse account. I think most of you have already signed up for a Cyverse account ahead of time and give us that name already. So you don't need to do this. This is only for the people who are joining us today who don't have a Cyverse account yet. You're going to want to go sign up for a new account. That is going to allow you to get a username that you can send to Eric and he'll submit your name for permissions. All of you that got a subscription that signed up and got a name ahead of time and already gave us that name, Eric has already got you signed up for permissions and you will be able to log in, undo all of this effortlessly. Okay, so we'll go through the steps. You shouldn't run into any problems if you've already given us your name. If you haven't given us your name, you're going to run into a couple hurdles and we're going to get you over those in real time today. Okay, so we're going to sign up, get an account. Now we're going to go to the other Cyverse. There are 2 Cyverse websites. The first one is just their main website, and this is where you sign up for accounts. We never are going to go here again, probably, unless you need to manage your account for something. Instead, the second website is what we call the DE, or the discovery environment. So I'm going to go back to what this Google and see, instead of this link, the second one down is called the discovery environment. And the link is de.cyverse.org instead of just cyverse.org. And this takes us to our actual fun playground where all of our stuff is. You're going to try to log in right now to the DE. And if you log in successfully, it should take you to a home page that shows you what your budget allocations are. If you're not able to log in and get into this, that means we haven't put you into the workshop. We haven't given you permissions yet. Maybe that's because you just got a name, or maybe that's because something got messed up when you sent your name in. But if that's you, if you're struggling here, go ahead and ping us in the chat and let us help fix that. Okay, I see Eric is already getting some new usernames that weren't included. And we're just going to de.cyverse.org and logging in and making sure we can see our allocation on the front. Let me stop sharing so I could see possibly hands. I'm not seeing anybody complaining. So if you're having troubles, just be a little more vocal so we can help fix it. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit here, feel optimistic that we actually got everything right. And everybody's actually just getting in.
I'm sorry if you already showed them this, but did they see the workshops tab in the user.cyverse.org?
No, we were just logged in. But
Okay.
feel free to screen share and show whatever you'd like them to know.
Okay, let me see. Just so they can check if they've already been enrolled in the workshop. So if, oops, what screen am I sharing right now? The wrong screen. Yeah.
So I got a Cyverse email and I get a link to verify email. And yeah.
Yep, so go through and go with all of that. We just might have to wait a couple minutes for all of your approvals to come through.
Yeah.
But go ahead and send your user name to Eric in the chat.
I have no idea.
Add you to this workshop that he's about to show everybody.
I just see that link which says wrong password.
Well, if you're in user.cyverse.org and you go to this workshops tab, if you already see the ESIIL Innovation Summit 2024 under my workshops, then that means you're good to go. But if you don't yet see that workshop, then I'll need to enroll you. I'll just need your username.
Okay.
So you'll be able to sign into Cyverse, even if I haven't enrolled you yet, but you won't have access to the discovery environment, which Ty, I think we'll talk about in a second, until
Okay. Log in.
Hey Ty, what's the difference between the de.cyverse.org and the user.cyverse.org?
Yeah, the user one is not what we want. You want the DE. The user one is just where they manage the portal, manage the users. And the DE is their actual playground.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so DE is where we're going to spend all of our time. You probably won't go to the other one ever again after you have signed up for an account. Yeah, there's a question about workshop equals working group for this instance. Eric, we haven't set up working groups yet. Workshops for the working groups yet, right?
No, just one overarching workshop.
Yeah. So for right now, yeah, for those of you that are joining from working groups, we will set up a workshop for your working group along with your tech lead. We just haven't done that yet. So doesn't matter quite yet. Yeah, and the workshops are in the DE. Eric, you want to show one more time how to find that now that people are paying attention? I think you're muted. I don't know if you were talking, but yeah.
Oops. Sorry, thanks. Okay, so if you're in user.cyverse.org and you're signed in, you'll see this workshops tab on the left. Am I sharing the correct screen? Everyone see the...
Yeah, we see that. So this is the one that Allison was just asking about, the user.cyverse instead of the de.cyverse.
Yep, that's right. So under workshops, if you've already been enrolled, if we have your username and I've added you, then you'll see this ESIIL Innovation Summit 2024 workshop. If you don't see this workshop, then we still need to account for your username. So you'll have to first create a Cyverse account and then send us the username.
Awesome. Allison, thanks for tending to those questions in the chat for us. That's really helpful. Okay. Let me now show everybody. Okay. So assuming you got into here, if you're not here yet, we'll keep working with you. I'm just going to start showing this off to the people because I think most people are here. Okay. This is the discovery environment. I've logged in. Then over on the left, I'm in the home page. This tells me how much computation I'm allowed to have. Most of you were signed up and you'll have a basic account, which will be something like 10 gigs and 500 hours or something. That's totally fine. We are right now, we're burning up ESIIL allocations and we just have those budgeted out in a particular way. We just want you to go and hit that cap. It's going to shut you down. It's going to say you've run out of stuff. And it'll give you a little link to like go get a subscription. Don't go give them money, just text us and we'll bump you up to a pro level. So you're going to be on a basic. We just want everybody to go grow out of your basic, show us that you've used it enough to grow out of that. And then we bump you up to a pro account. We don't expect you to go and pay any money to extend any type of thing. Just right now you have a basic account, try to use that all up and then we'll bump you up. Okay. So right here, I am at a commercial grade, I can use 500,000 core hours and 10 terabytes of limit. A lot of you are going to immediately say, well, 10 terabytes is a lot, like that's big, but I probably have more than that on my desktop computer. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit about the philosophy of bringing data in and out of those ephemeral computers. And one of those things is that we don't need to bring a lot of data with us. We can find little ways to bring in just the data that we need for what we're trying to use. Okay, so that's the opening sheet. Second, we're going to go down to data. Now there are two folders here. One is my personal folder that has the same name as my username. I can drag and drop data into this folder, and I'm going to be able to see this folder from inside of Cyverse when I open it up. But other people, and you can, from your personal one, you can share data with other people. This is sort of like a Google folder is set up. Like it's private for you. You could make a data set and then share it out to people if you know their email address or their Cyverse account address. That can be a little hard to share within a whole group. Like if you're doing a whole working group, just having one person and sharing it out can be problematic. So one way to do this is there's a second folder called community data. This is all of the data from anybody that uses Cyverse. And one of the folders in here is an ESIIL folder. So you could go in and make a subfolder in the ESIIL folder that is public, that everybody can see, and your whole group could pop folders in and out of that public folder. Okay, I'm going to call these two types of storage persistent data storage. These are the only places where data actually gets stored in perpetuity, where it doesn't disappear when you shut the thing down at the end of the day. So anything that you want to stay, to persist, needs to go in one of those two folders. That's different than the cloud instance that we're going to set up. So right now, though, this seems really underwhelming because it's just one page, but this is one of those three pillars. So our first pillar is GitHub. That's where our team communicates and where we store our code. The second pillar is persistent storage. GitHub only lets you put 100 megs as the biggest thing that you can put on there. So if you're doing TIFF files or big data cubes or big gene files or all kinds of stuff that gets too big, it has to go into your persistent storage when you've done something. Okay, so that's what we're looking at right now is your persistent storage that's hooked to the cloud instance that you can move stuff in and out of. The third one here, these are called apps, but these are really Docker containers. So these are suites of software that people have set up for you already. So when we set up an ephemeral computer in the cloud, it loads all the software that we need, and you just have a computer that looks like the computer that you need. The one that we primarily use is called Jupyter Lab ESIIL. That's the one we'll do during the Innovation Summit. That's the one we're going to use today. But let me show you real quick up here. There are other apps, and one of them is if you go to Shared with Me, Shared with Me, those of you in working groups, your working group tech lead has made you your own Docker container for your group. And so, but it's not going to be public. It's going to be private and shared with you. So you're going to go to Shared with Me and pick out the Docker container that your tech lead has made for your group. For those of us today, though, we're going to go back to the featured apps. Just this is the first one that pops up, and we're going to select Jupyter Lab ESIIL. I'm going to go through one more tab before I do that. This is all they call it an analysis, but this is every instance I've ever started up. So what's happening here? We have our GitHub, we have our persistent storage. We're going to go into Cyverse, tell it what kind of computer we want. It's going to set up this ephemeral computer in the cloud, and we're going to work on that, and then we're going to dissolve that away. What you're seeing now are all the ephemeral cloud instances that I've ever made. If I want to go back to one that I've done before, it's not going to have all the data on it. It's just going to be set up the same way. I can go over here and hit this relaunch button right here and go relaunch some other instance that I've made in the past. I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to start a new one because you guys don't have one that you started in the past. So you're starting a new one with me. So again, the tabs, we have the home tab, tells you what your budget is. Data tab, this is your persistent storage for your data. Apps, these are available apps that you can use to start up a new instance. And the fourth one is your history of instances that you started up if you want to go back to something. I'm going back to the third tab, and here there's Jupyter Lab ESIIL. Oh, We need help understanding that. Can you ask that again? Sorry. Okay. Okay, so I stopped sharing. Okay, so in the third tab down, I selected the Jupyter Lab ESIIL, and now I'm in the setup. What version do I want? I want the Innovation Summit 2024 version. What other versions could I possibly have? Well, in the spring, we had a Code Fest. In the fall, we had a hackathon. So each time we have an event, we freeze the software in one time. So any code that we come up with for the Innovation Summit, even 10 years from now, we'll all be able to work on the same virtual computer that we all used on that day. Okay, Innovation Summit. I'm gonna go next. Now I get to pick my hardware. So what I did up here is I picked my software. For us, we're picking the one that Eric made for us for the Innovation Summit. For your working group, you would have picked your working group one, but that's telling us what software pack do we want. And now we need to pick our hardware pack. Now you can pick a really big computer. I'm not going to pick 120 cores today because I don't want to be greedy because I'm just showing you how it works. So I'm going to pick 4, but you can go up to 128 cores. We can go up to 250 gigabytes of RAM. I'm only going to do 16, so I'm not greedy today. And then disk space. What the heck is this disk space? This is a hard drive for the ephemeral cloud instance. So we start this temporary computer. It has its own virtual hard drive in it. Separately, you have your persistent data in the persistent data storage. We're going to want to, very first thing we do always is take data from our persistent storage and bring it up into this virtual hard drive so it goes really fast. So we want this to be big enough to handle all the stuff we would do in the cloud. Now I'm going to hit launch analysis. I just hit next. Now I'm going to hit launch analysis. You guys can be doing this along with me. Launch analysis, and it is going and finding all the resources and allocating the resources for me. Okay, it allocated the resources, and I have to go up here. There's this button called Go to Analysis. That's just like now the thing is set up. Let's go to it. And do. Here is our virtual computer. Now, this seems maybe a little underwhelming, right? You just popped up and it just looks like a computer. But keep in mind that this is now as big of a computer as you need it to be out somewhere else where it has a really fast internet connection and a really fast connection to all the data and a really fast connection to all the computation. So this can expand if you need it to. This can do a lot of cool stuff. This essentially allows you to just, on your laptop, have as big of a supercomputer as you want. Now let's tour this place a little bit and see what we have in front of us. One is over here, we have those 2 folders that I told you about. They're sort of buried a little bit in iPlant. So here are those 2 storage folders that we saw in the persistent storage right when we first opened the DE. So the TTUF one, this is all those folders that you saw that I had dragged into the DE tab. And now they're here waiting for me. If I go back into the shared one, this takes a while to load. Right now, I double clicked it, but right now it's calling into that persistent storage that's networked. So it's not in the same place. It's trying to call into that shared folder. And that takes a while because it's so huge. Okay, well, that's opening up. I'll tour the rest of this over here for everybody. Okay, so first we have 2 different Python modules. One, if you open it, it's just a bare oh, I see. Okay, so let me go back to where I was. So in that shared folder finally opened. Down here, I can find that ESIIL folder that we found earlier, and you could go make folders in here and they'd be saved for everybody to see. Right. Now, this is important because if you just save something here in this home folder and you shut down your instance, that just goes away unless you save it to someplace. Okay, so we need to be able to come in here. Now, let's try this again. Open that up. See over here on the right top, it says, which kernel am I using? I'm using a generic Python 3 kernel. That's not the one that Eric built us. Eric built this one called macro systems. So if I click on macro systems, up here at the right, it's using the macro systems kernel. Now, if I go over here and I do the R one, this is actually a Jupyter notebook with R implemented in it. So if I come over here, I actually just see it's an R kernel. So I could swap back and forth between these by clicking on that and choosing a different kernel. But macro systems is the one that Eric built us that's really nice and set up really nice for geospatial data. The other thing that's happening here is every time I hit that button, it's opening up it's saving a new file in the folder that I was in. So let me delete a couple of these. I'm just deleting so I can start over and everybody can follow me. So ignore this delete. I'm just getting back to what I'm undoing what I did already so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm just in my home folder. There are these two folders that popped up that take me to the persistent storage. And in here, if I click on this, it's going to start a new Python document and save it in the folder that I'm in right here. Boom. Folder that I'm in, start a new one. And then if I try to save that, it's just going to rename the file. And it saves it. Okay, I'm going to stop real quick. Try to just check in with everybody. Oh yeah, Tyson's telling me why I was getting permission denied. It's because, yeah, when you hit that button and it tries to start a new folder, if you're in a public folder, it won't let you immediately write a new empty folder to that. So I had to go back into the top folder to be able to start something up. Okay, so I'm just going to pause. I want to give a chance to make sure everybody's gotten in, been able to start up an instance. We have a couple other things we want to do once we're in there, get it hooked up to GitHub and stuff, but I want to see if everybody can get to where the thing's just open and they're in. I'm going to pause real quick, let people confirm or not confirm. Oh, Steven, you want to go ahead and ask a question?
Yeah, sorry, I got distracted. My daughter's homesick from school today. I'm comfy with Cyverse, and so I'm logged in, but how do I know if I have permissions to all the correct spaces that we're using? Which spaces, rather, are we using?
If you're in, then don't worry. Yeah, I can go back over that again. So
Thanks, sorry about that.
no apology necessary. This is a lot. We're just bombarding you with information. I appreciate you guys taking the time to ask questions so we can clarify. Okay, where we are right now is in our ephemeral instance. Inside of these folders is our persistent storage that's actually networked. Cyverse won't let you write. It's particular about how and when you can write to that storage, that persistent storage. And it won't let you do a lot of writing activities to that persistent storage, like opening up a new file, for example. If you're there, it just gave me a permission notice, like, we don't want you just writing new files to the persistent storage all the time. So all I had to do was come back out to the top folder. So now I'm not in these persistent storage folders. I'm in my instance and in that little virtual hard drive that I built when I set it up. And so
I
now,
see, sorry, I'm actually one upstream from that. So I was curious, are you working in Jupyter Lab ESIIL? Is that what you are, or?
yes.
Okay, got you. So I don't have permission, so I should just go ahead and request it, I guess.
Yep. So that probably means we just don't have you into the workshop yet.
Okay.
And so, yeah, Tyson, who's in the chat, can give you permission right away.
Yeah, sorry. Some of these permissions, we've truncated them because we have a problem with Bitcoin miners. So we've locked a lot of the system down so that you have to like enroll in the workshop so that we can whitelist your username.
Okay, Dana, this is great. She got the purchase a subscription notice that I talked about briefly. This is because we start everybody at a basic, and now Dana has done enough of our activities to have burned through that. So all you need to do, Dana, is give Eric your Cyverse username, and he'll submit it to, well, Tyson is here. He could probably do it in real time, but generally you'll just give us your username, tell us that happens. We'll submit it to the Cyverse team and they'll bump you up usually within 24 hours just to a new thing. So don't purchase a subscription. Just let us know and we'll bump you up. Other questions before we do anything else?
I noticed Allison had a good question in the chat up above about like, how do you estimate what size of like ephemeral computer to use?
Yeah, part of that is a little bit of experience. So if you judge based on what your own laptop is and what you might do on your own laptop as sort of a first reference point, I think that's helpful. Err a little bit on the smaller side, thinking you probably are not using quite as many resources as you can. But if you think a standard laptop's like 4 cores and 8 to 16 gigs of RAM, and then maybe 100 gigs of storage or something, that's about where I would start and then say, oh, this is not enough for me. I'm going to grow a little bit bigger and grow a little bit bigger as I run into limits.
Yeah, and I'll just add that the way that this platform works is that what Ty is setting is the minimum number that you absolutely need. There's a maximum number on here, which is usually like, I don't know, it could be up to the size of the resource that you get put onto. And we have a lot of different servers. Some of them have 500 gigs of RAM, some of them have 96 gigs of RAM. And so in general, you can run that process with the default settings and you don't need to set anything. It's when it fails that you need to restart it again and go reset the minimums. Kubernetes, which is what runs this, gets really angry when it runs out of memory. And so I think Ty has gone through the process of maxing the memory out, and then the container or the instance that he's using dies and he can't connect to it and he has to restart. So that can be really frustrating. So always, save now, save often, keep a copy of your code somewhere while you're doing these analyses, just in case something goes wrong.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, 2 questions. So one, I just tried to use the RStudio and it broke, and I remember it broke 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So we're still in that situation.
Yeah, I have the magic fix. I'm going to give you the RStudio fix and the GitHub fix before we leave, hopefully.
Okay. And then the other thing is you probably haven't gotten to it yet, but closing down analyses, just to remind.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll make sure everybody, we'll end with that. Okay, any other questions before I charge ahead? Okay. Final sprint. Everybody take a deep breath, and we are going to do the final sprint for today. Now remember, we have another training next week, and that is largely about building our comfort level a little bit with these things that I've talked about. So if you're still feeling like, whoa, I'm not super comfortable, don't worry, we're just going to play around. Our goal for today is make sure everybody's signed in, make sure everybody just knows the general language and talking points and how things fit together. Okay. So we are in Cyverse. One note that that Brian just made is that if you went to our analyses down here, you're going to see the one that we've started that's still running. And there are a couple things we can do with that instance, this one that's open right now. Okay, one is if we hit this red button, it will shut down that ephemeral instance and we'll lose all the data that's in there. But you'd be able to relaunch with those same settings in the future. The other one I want to bring your attention to is this timeout. Okay, if I hit this, it's going to bring up this little message saying, do I want to extend my termination date? So all these instances we've built in with, if you're inactive for a certain amount of time, it shuts down on you. That can be not helpful if you want it to keep going. It can be really helpful if you just forget about it and want it to shut down so you're not burning a bunch of resources where you're not paying attention. So here's a way for you to be deliberate and extend that time if you want something to run longer. You just hit the extend button. Sometimes you have to go and refresh this, and then it'll let you hit the extend button again. You can just keep hitting the extend button as long as you need. It's just forcing you to be really deliberate about how much time you want to use. The last thing we're going to do with the last 15 minutes, and this is going to feel like a bit of a sprint, is I'm going to show you how to hook to GitHub, and I'm going to show you how to open RStudio. Okay, so first, back at our home base at our website. So this is the Innovation Summit website that we've been using as our home base. On the sidebar here in our pre-summit trainings, on the fourth one is called Cyverse Hacks. And it just has little bits of cheat code to help us out with different things. And right down, the third one down here is 2 little bits of code, which is our RStudio cheat code. And you're going to need a document open. It can be a Word document or a text document. I'm opening one right now. It's just taking a second. And we're going to copy and paste these 2 little lines of codes into a text document. Okay, both of those in there. I'm going to get rid of the formatting. And we're going to go find a magic number and replace this ID with that magic number. Okay, so I'm all set up now. Going in here, I'm back in my instance. I'm back at launcher. If you hit this plus button right here, it'll bring up a new launcher if you're not seeing a launcher. So you should see the launcher like this. Then I'm going to go to RStudio. And it's going to be broken. And you take your hands and go like this first in anger at it. And then we say, okay, well, what's actually happening here? RStudio runs its own server. So we have made this ephemeral computer. And within that ephemeral computer, RStudio is making its own server. And that own server has all its own security. And right now, it's not letting us log in. So we have to just bypass some login procedures so we can log into that little mini server. Now, what do I need? I need the number of what is that little server number. And that's what I put in for the ID. You guys can, again, all these details are in that sheet that I gave you. There is the click by click here. So if this gets confusing, there's the click by click to follow. Okay, I've made 2 new links. These are that little ephemeral server that I made for RStudio, and I've just gotten 2 login prompts. I'm going to take the first one. I'm going to put it in here. It's still broken. Oh, sorry. And so then I go get the second one. Put it in. And now you have RStudio. Now this is fixed for as long as that instance is up. When if you shut down this instance, that's gone and you have to set this up again. But you don't have to do this every time you want to open an RStudio. You just have to do it once. So here I'm going to close this down. Now that I've fixed that, I hit this again and it pops up, no problem. Okay, so for those of you that want to use RStudio, you have to go through this one little procedure to get around that opening, but you only have to fix it once. You don't have to fix it repeatedly. When you're in RStudio over here, you're going to go into the data store. And that is going to be the folder that corresponds to the folder you see over here. Let me show you again. Over here, down at the bottom, it's going to look like this when you first start it up. You click into data store, and that shows you the home folder where everything is. So now you, as you're reading and writing things back and forth to this folder, you can find them in your RStudio. All right, let me pause that and ask or see if there's any panic happening at the disco. Okay, I'm going to keep charging ahead because we only have 10 minutes and I want to be respectful of time. But keep in mind that we are refocusing on this next week. So if there are problems, we can fix them again, okay? Okay, so now we are going to hook up to GitHub. That has a couple steps. And again, these are all on your click by click. So I'm going to the ESIIL GitHub page. And I'm going to go scroll down through the repositories until you find a repository called Cyverse Utils. I think it's the first one on the second page. Cyverse Utils right here. I'll put this in the link or the link in the chat. There's a question in the chat about Cyverse or about RStudio, and yeah, RStudio will open in a new tab. So now you'll have your main Jupyter. I can show you right here. The Jupyter instance right here is on one tab, and my RStudio is on another tab. But they're in the same instance. This is an instant. The RStudio is inside of this. It's running inside of this. Okay. This right here has two pieces of code that make a key. You can imagine that it is pretty problematic for people. They can start up an instance and then go blast GitHub with all kinds of nefarious stuff. And so GitHub set up, instead of just using some random username and password that you bought off the dark web, you have to actually manually set up a key each time for one of these new instances. So we start up a new instance and we just want to set up a key pair for GitHub so that we can push and pull to GitHub. Now your GitHub repo is the ones we're going to deal with are all public. And so you'll always be able to pull those. You don't have to set up a key to just pull things. But if you want to push anything, now you're going to have this key. Or if it's a private repo, you're not going to be able to pull or push without a key. So here, Eric set us up this really nice tool to help us make a key. And we just need the link from the URL. And we can come back in here. And inside of our instance, there is a GitHub widget on the left. Now, the GitHub widget usually works the best if we're in our home top folder. So if you hit this little folder right here, it'll take you, hit that a couple times. It's just making sure I'm in this top folder. Then I hit the GitHub widget. I'm going to say I'm going to clone a repository, and I'm going to give it that link from that utils and say clone, and boom, that folder just appears. So this is the folder for the repo. The whole thing has just appeared, and those two pieces of code that were in the repo are now in my instance. I can click on either one of them. I'm going to do the Python one. Doesn't matter which kernel I use, so I can select that. But now I just have this piece of code, and I'm going to hit play. And that starts to generate a key for me. It's going to ask for two pieces of information, my username and my email. But I just told you that it doesn't use your email or your user or password to actually log into GitHub. It's using this key. So why do I need to put this in? The reason we want to put this in is so it just tracks your commits. So that when you push something, it has your name tag to it. And then as we look through all of the commits over time, we just see like who made commits and when. So I'm going to enter my GitHub username and hit enter. Then I'm going to hit my email. And hit enter, and it generated a key for me. This is the key. Now there are two keys here. One of them's hidden. You're not seeing it. It was stuck in a hidden folder that you're not seeing. And then this is the public key. So we want to take this public key, the whole thing, and I want to copy that. And I'm going to take that over to GitHub with me. Now I'm over at GitHub and we don't care which repo we're in for this. This is a personal setting. So we're going to go to our personal icon up at the right. So this key is attached to you, not to a repo. So you put this in and then you'll go be able to pull any repo that you want that you have permission to. Anything that you're the admin on, you can push and pull with this same key. Okay, so from that personal profile, I'm going to go down to settings, all the way to the bottom. GitHub has an annoying number of settings things, but this is the personal settings. Then on the left of my personal settings is SSH and GPG keys. If you have any keys saved, you can probably delete them because as soon as the instance gets shut down, this key is no longer good. So this was a key that I had from my last instance. It's no longer good. New SSH key. I'm going to paste in that key that I copied, give it a little name, and save. I have to go through some authentication, so it trusts that key is from you. And now I have a key. So now I, as a user, am personally logged in to this instance. And I can now pull repos that I want. So if I go back to the top folder, I'm going to go over and go back to the repo that I started. Or I'll do the Innovation Summit one. Okay, so Innovation Summit. Instead of taking the URL, so if I was on a public, if I didn't want to push and pull, if I hadn't done the SSH key, I could do this one, but I'd only be able to pull. Instead, since we did an SSH key, I'm going to go to this green button. I'm going to choose SSH, copy that. Now I come over here, clone repository, give it that link, and you're going to see the whole folder from Innovation Summit pop up. It's cloning right now. It's a big folder, so it's taking a while. And here it is, Cyverse Utils. Oh, sorry. Innovation Summit. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to, in the interest of speeding through, here is the markdown file. I'm going to make one edit here. Let's say practice edit. And I save. I'm going to go back up to this GitHub app and you see that things have changed a little bit. It's saying you have a change to this document. I'm going to hit this plus symbol right here. That's going to move it to staged. Now, remember at the beginning, we talked about commits. I'm making a commit note and I hit commit. It hasn't sent it to the cloud yet. It is just in my ephemeral thing, organized it and formatted it for GitHub. And then I go up here and there's this orange dot at the top. This is my push. I'm going to hit that and it pushes. Okay, so let me summarize really quick. 3 pillars. GitHub, that's where you put your code and that's where you communicate with your people and that's where you collaborate with people. 2, persistent storage, things that are bigger than 100 megabytes and you want to share, put on the persistent storage. 3, the Cyverse is to start up these ephemeral computers, but they're only as good as they are. They're only as good as they are as long as they're open. So you're going to open one of those, use, and then shut it down. We'll talk about that next week. Before you go today, I want you to do one last thing for me, which is to shut down your instance. So go to Cyverse, the 4th tab, find the one that's running, and hit this red button. This is going to shut the whole thing down. And get us back to our starting point for next week. Okay. So again, next week, we're going to practice some of this. Come with questions, comments, concerns you have about the process. If you haven't figured out the stuff that we did today, I invite you to go practice it and play around with it for the week, and then we can help you troubleshoot next week. And if you guys need to go right away, please feel free to take off. Otherwise, I'm happy to stay for a couple more minutes and ask questions, even if it runs over time. But thank you guys for coming. We'll see you next week.